Okay, well, Zoom says we're live on YouTube, so let's give this a shot. Today is January 2nd, 2020. Happy New Year, first meeting since the new year, which is very exciting. Today's meeting, this meeting in particular, is to talk about design and user experience issues relating to Backdrop CMS. There are a couple of design improvements coming soon for backdropcms.org. Peter in particular has started fixing on the showcase landing page. We had a couple of weird display issues and we now have a pull request, which is great. I'd also, Peter, just noticed your report of the menu being weird on the showcase node page. I hadn't seen that before, but that definitely is not supposed to be that way, and we can fix that too. For Backdrop the project, we have a handful of user experience issues that we usually talk about every week, but because the past few weeks we've been very focused on 115, we haven't gotten any progress on those issues, but we do have other new issues specifically related to stuff that has been added into 115, which should probably be our focus between now and the 15th of January anyway. So just to highlight those, we added this fantastic feature. There's this contrib module for Backdrop called auto menu settings, that most of which has been added to core. There was also a really old, I think Drupal 6 module called auto menu that I found the other day, which also looks similar. So whatever those features have, I think there is one follow-up issue on this, something Gregory recommended. Validation, better validation for menu link title, and the ability to lock menu creation and placement. So rather than just setting defaults, the ability to hide that option from the display from users. So I'm not sure either of these are, showstoppers. I think they're both nice to have, but because we have the ability to add them, we could definitely do that. We also have a new option for when you put a menu on your site. The way it works out of the box is that there is a breakpoint at which we switch from the menus being touch activated to being hover activated. And if you decided you didn't ever want them to be hover activated, you wanted to be touch activated on all screen sizes, there's now a setting for that where you can check a box and say only use touch activated menus. We are having a lot of trouble figuring out the description text to add to that checkbox. I think my latest recommendation there was to not have description text at all and just put more words in the label, but it would be good to get more people to try and play with that setting and see if there is any description text that we need to add to it to make it make more sense. Or if we need to rephrase things, just it's new, people are gonna wonder what it does. And if there's any way we can make that as clear as possible as to what the checkbox is providing, that would be good. That issue is number 4253. And you can find all of our 115 follow-ups by searching for the 115 milestone and seeing what's left in there. And then, of course, because we just came out with a preview release yesterday, I think the most important thing for 115 is just to get people to try it. I'm going to update a couple of sites to it today and see how it goes. But just, fiddle with the stuff in there that's new, see if it makes sense, see if it's what you expect or not. And if not, if there's anything we can do to the interface to make your expectations line up with what it actually does, that's obviously going to be a really good thing. We have a handful of design issues that I also don't think have gotten any attention in the last 2 weeks for Backdrop, the product. A couple of them are related to the basis theme, and then we have sort of an ongoing how do we make CSS changes safely issue that's sort of a blocker on getting progress on those. So that I think we'll probably revisit after 115 comes out, but the issue in particular we're working on is the one about having a white gap between hero blocks, and that's 4095. If you're curious about how to make, say, safe CSS changes, the issue number for that is 4167. We have a couple of new events we're attending next year, and I think Laren has made some fantastic progress on design for a pop-up banner that we'll be able to take to those events. I was also thinking we might get a secondary banner, like a super cheap one, just printed, maybe even like paper or something that has some of the text from a previous iteration about Backdrop being Drupal 7 so that we can point to whichever banner we need to at any given event. And then when Drupal 7 is no longer relevant, we can keep the banner that doesn't mention Drupal 7 and we can throw the cheap one away that does. There's also a request here for stickers. This is obviously something that would be fun, but is definitely not a requirement if anyone wants to make any new Backdrop stickers. Mike McCaffrey in particular mentioned that it might be fun to do something with a glowing apple on the back of a Mac. I'm not sure that's necessarily a priority anymore because I've noticed a lot of people switching off of Macs these days now that PCs are more affordable and less expensive, and more people seem to be switching to Linux because maybe Linux is less terrible than it had been in the past from a user experience point of view. But I do still think like the design community has better software available for Macs, and so if that's who we're after, it would probably still be good to not dismiss Mac users. I still use Mac. I like Macs. I think lots of people still do, but something to think about. I also don't know if any other computers have like glowing things that might work with a sticker, but a sticker that works with and without glowing things would be good too. All right. One thing that came up, I think, last week in a different meeting, sort of tangentially, is how we make design decisions. And we have a couple of people in our community who have generally been an authority on particular parts of Backdrop's design. Darius designed backdropcms.org's brand and theme, and Wes designed the basis theme in Backdrop Core, and Darius helped us with an overview of the 7 administration theme in Backdrop Core. And we've had other designers help with little bits and pieces of things along the way. But I think it would be good if, I know like me personally, I'm not a designer and I don't, like I can use logic to explain things, but I don't necessarily think that logic always justifies design. Like sometimes things just feel a certain way and like there's no amount of logic that you can, like you might be able to get to the bottom of it, but that doesn't mean you can make a decision about what's better by using logic. And so I think it would be good if we had people who we could refer to as an authority on particular things. And I would love it if there was more than one person that we could use an authority for particular things. So that if we needed help with something and one person wasn't available, we would have another person or a committee or something, that these people who are aware of the intent of the particular project and could speak to whether this particular change is an improvement or not. Or if not, could help recommend something that might be a better alternative. And I was thinking that might also be a great way that we could give designers a little bit more importance in our community, is if we have all of these pages about leadership that are talking about like the bug squad, and I would love to see a design focused set of people who are like, these people also have authority in our community. And I don't know what we want to call them. I came up with something like, design authorities, but we could call them whatever they want to be called. But if we could get more than one person on each team, and we could be like, okay, if you have any questions about the 7 theme, run it by so-and-so, we'll get sign off on it. So it sort of be like a core committer review, but they don't have to be a committer. They just have to be an authority and be like, yes, this is good or not. And so we have a couple of people who are already wearing those hats that I thought we should give credit to, but I would love to see those teams grow. So I don't know what a requirement would be for someone to join the team. I would guess at this point, I would just say interest, but then also maybe reading some of the documentation, like our brand guidelines, if you wanted to do backdropcms.org, or we have this document we've never really completed called, what was it? The user, I don't know. There's some GitHub repository we had that was going to explain all of the interactions of elements in Backdrop Core, like user interface guidelines or something like that. That I think it would be good if we could get somebody to sort of understand that in order to be in charge of 7, and I don't, since that document isn't complete, I don't really know where to send someone for that sort of thing. But it would be good if we just had something, so it would be like, okay, if you're interested in doing this thing, read this document, put your name here, and now you can work with the team to figure out how that works. And then that way, like, it would be much easier for us to make decisions on design related things rather than being like, 8 out of 10 people think it's better, and then have someone come in later and be like, this isn't on brand. It doesn't matter if it's better or not, if you're like destroying the brand or whatever. I don't think we've had anything like that ever has been like that yet, but I know designers really hate it when you come in and start changing like little tiny things in their design, and like all of a sudden a year later there's now like 8 things that are changed and it's different than it was before. And so it'd be good just to have some oversight somehow. So that's kind of what I was thinking on that, how that goes, as someone who makes a lot of changes to designers' designs. Sorry, designers. Usually client requests, but you never know. So if it looks like, Tim, you were nodding along to that, I don't really know where to put, like, I would love to make like maybe a more formal announcement, maybe a blog post or something that's like, hey, we want to recognize designers. This is a way we're going to recognize some people who have already did a design. Anyone else who wants to do design is welcome to join in. This is how to do it. Maybe I'll like take a stab at that. Or we could get like Wes or someone who, if he has time, I don't know if he has time, but someone who's already a designer to be like, come join the team. I don't know. Could be worth asking.
So just some feedback. I agree with most of what you're saying. I mean, this is the design and UX meeting, right? And so in a way, this has been the meeting for design issues, but you're right, we don't have the designers here. And in a way, I understand that, because it's not that we have enough, there's not a lot of volume of design tasks happening at these meetings. So I wonder, it might be worth rethinking that, like even the name of this meeting, and it doesn't, like, I think where you're leading is that there doesn't have to be a regular design meeting necessarily.
Well, I think like having this meeting is useful because it also covers all of the user experience issues, which I think is, it kind of goes hand in hand. And I think those are going to come up all the time. But you are raising a good point too, that maybe if we're going to have people who want to be design authorities, we should say, you should try and attend this meeting. And then that way we can get them to participate when there are design issues that are relevant to them. But I think like, even if like we have a lot of people in the community that have really good ideas, like Peter had this problem with the backedupcms.org site and came up with a solution, and then we're like, okay, let's ask Darius, and Darius was able to like respond really quickly when it was like, here's a screenshot, yes or no. And I think that that's much less of a burden for someone to be like, come to a meeting every week and we'll talk about whatever. But if they have time and can come to me, I know Darius used to come to a lot of meetings, which was great. I would love to have that kind of door be open, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be a blocker to getting the solution to the problem. So having something where it's like, we have people who can do the work, we have people who have ideas, just tell us if this is a good idea or not, is still really valuable.
So, I mean, if we're going to do a blog post, I think it would be nice to have a specific call to action. And so that could be join a committee. It could be an announcement of a meeting where we're going to just sort of rethink our design stuff, but I'm not sure what the agenda for that meeting would be.
Yeah.
It could be like, we could say on our, I don't know, our two design, or a month from now, this meeting is going to be dedicated to, just sort of rethinking how do we better engage with designers.
That would be amazing. We need that too.
I mean, just having like a focal point, like being able to point people to like, if you're interested in this topic, here's where to start.
Yeah. And
then see where to go from there. I think that would be helpful, but I don't know, I'm still feeling a little wishy-washy about what exactly that, we would be talking about at that meeting. So
yeah.
Or how to describe it.
Well, I think maybe, so if we change the blog post to, rather than being like, we're having a call for designers, especially if we haven't yet figured out how to engage with them, that might be putting the cart before the horse. But the first post could be something like, we would like to acknowledge our designers who've already made big contributions to the project. And then we can say, we're setting this section of the site where we're going to be doing whatever. And then a month from now, we can have the meeting and be like, how do we engage with designers? And then when we figure that out, we can be like, let's reach out to them and say that we have these positions available where we want people on the team. It could be sort of a rather than a one-time thing, could be an ongoing thing where it's like, first we make an announcement, then we have a meeting, then we make another announcement. And that might also help us with content, which is something we sometimes have a hard time creating, or we get 2 blog posts out of that, or 3 or something.
Sure. Those things make sense. Another idea just popped into my head is one way to frame this might be the first, the next design meeting, we want to set design goals for 2020. Or, and design goals could be organizational as well as, actual design
Yeah.
goals. So it might be, I don't know, that would be one way to frame that, but I'm just sort of brainstorming ideas.
I like that. But I would also like if we could get at least one designer at that meeting.
Right.
Because I don't want to say we're going to set design goals and then be like,
Sure. I think it goes sort of both ways. Like it doesn't make sense to do that if we're not going to reach out and try to engage some designers. On the other hand, it'll be a lot easier to engage a designer if we tell them, oh, we have a really specific thing.
Yeah, chicken egg problem here.
Well, right, but I think if you do them both, the trick is to do them both at once, right? To have a reason and to reach out to them. Okay. So, like having that task and then, but making a commitment between now and then to like not just hope that they show up, but to actually reach out to 1 or 2 of them that we know, like, and that could be Wes and it could be Darius, and just say, we'd really like for you to in particular be at this one meeting, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Okay. That's just a thought.
So the next design meeting is the 16th, which is the day after the release. So I would be more comfortable if we could schedule that one on the 30th so that we have some time to actually do some work before it. And maybe what we can do is reach out to Weston or Darius ahead of time and be like, hey, can you set aside time on the 30th to do this thing with us? And then we can figure out what that needs to be for an agenda.
That would be great. I mean, like before we did a blog post announcing this, it might be nice to have one of them confirmed.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I'm gonna fantastic ideas. I'm gonna write some of these things down. January 30th meeting date, blog post on credit. What did you say? Something design goals for 2020. Okay. Thank you. That was great. Okay. Anything else comes to mind related to designer user experience we need to talk about this week?
Excuse me. I don't know. There's a part of me that just doesn't have the energy for it. So certainly things to talk about, but I don't know if there's anything urgent. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay. Well, we have another meeting in about 10 minutes to talk about all the stuff that's going on in 115, I would imagine. So if there is anything urgent that you remember between now and then, we can bring it up at the end of that meeting. But I don't have anything else, I think.
This is not urgent, but I just had a thought when you're talking about banners for events. I just had a thought about maybe getting backdrop branded webcam covers, like a little thing that you put over the webcam and has like a little backdrop logo on it or something. You can hand it out at events, stuff like that.
Like swag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
Say that again. I missed it. Backdrop branded what?
Webcam covers.
So like the little stickers you put on the top of your computer. Yeah, I think that's also great because that's kind of in line with our like general philosophy of like internet privacy and stuff.
Security, privacy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll look up a price on those. But yeah, I would imagine that's a sort of a common thing that people are doing these days. So trying to get some price on like however many for whatever cost and get a budget going would be good. It's a good idea. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up this meeting and we will meet again in 10 minutes.